Welcome. In this week's episode we're looking at how you could make external chain plates using Dyneema.
And so we're going to go straight into a demonstration of what we're talking about outside. We've shown you before how we are doing our chain plates using a huge backing plate much larger than this, and this underneath the hull and deck joint, so that this will come through our deck and stick up like this above the deck, and then between that and a shroud there will be a lashing that tensions the shroud and holds it up. That has advantages for us in simplicity, but it does mean you've got a hole in the deck, and not everybody is going to have space to be able to fit such a large backing plate under their deck. So now we've come up with an idea for an alternative which is more like external chain plates that we see a number of people with older boats switching to for ease of inspection and for greater strength. So I'm going to show you in a moment how we would do external chain plates using Dyneema for Dyneema rigging. So this is our idea for external chain plates, and this is just a mock-up with some bits we had lying around. What we would do is take some FR4, larger diameter circles than this, and you would through bolt these through the hull. On the far side you would build up a good strong backing plate to take that those loads down the hull.
On the inside?
Yeah, on the inside. Then you would take halfway through making a soft shackle, slightly different to this. So you would have a length of line with two locking Mobius Brummel splices. This one isn't a locking one because of the way we're using it for soft shackles, but a locking version of this, and you would set it up so that the two arms were slightly different lengths. These then hook over your FR4. You need to design this specifically for your boat, so in our case these would need to be out from the hull a little bit further to clear this coving strip here. And when you've got these fitted, you would then put a plate on top of these going up here, which would stop these slipping off, but it would also ensure that these lines are protected behind a plate from both UV and chafe. So if you come alongside a pontoon or anything like that, you're not going to get chafe onto your ropes. You'll have a plate to protect it. That then provides a loop coming up here, which again you lash to your shroud. Now the beauty of this is that it's really easy to scale it up, because you could have another 2 points a little bit further down and have another loop connected to those, so you end up with 2 loops here, and you alternate these as you lash to the shroud, so that the load gets evenly distributed between these 2 and then evenly distributed between the 4 bolts going through the hull. And that's the beauty of using a Dyneema lashing, is that it will automatically, as it stretches and creeps very slightly, it'll automatically even up the load between all the legs coming down here. If you compare that to a traditional external chain plate, which would be usually stainless steel, possibly bronze, coming up here and an eye that you attach the bottle screw to. When you've got a strip like this with bolts going through it, the load does not get evenly distributed between those bolts, and the first bolt takes the lion's share of all the load. This way, with those legs, each one of these will take an equal share of the load. You can adjust them so that they go slightly side to side, so that these legs sit nicely next to each other, they don't stack on top of each other. And all you've got to do is have space on the inside to fit a backing plate. This is our final mock-up of an external Dyneema chainplate. You have circular pads through-bolted through your hull with a big backing plate on the far side. They are circular, and the diameter is such that the bend radius of the Dyneema going round it is a minimum of 5 to 1, 5 times its diameter. So with this 9mm, it's 5 times 9mm should be the diameter of that circle. You then have the loops made as locking Mobius Brummel splices, and with one line you get each splice ending about here after the full taper, which is 72 times the diameter, giving you a loop here that you would either use a low friction ring or a stainless steel thimble, and then you use Dyneema to lash that to the shroud to be able to tension your shroud. If the size of your rig means you want to spread the load further down the hull or more backups, then you could make another one of these exactly the same, but mount it to bolts and pads further down the hull, and then the load on the rig would be divided by 4 to each bolt. So if you tensioned your rig, for example, to 4,000 kilos, each one of these would only have 1,000 kilos on the bolt. Once you've built it all like this, you will need to include something to stop the Dyneema coming off the round block. You could just put a circular pad on each one of a larger diameter, and then these can be hooked over it, or you could put a larger plate that would provide a lot more protection when you're rubbing alongside a jetty. The other thing that you're going to have to deal with is to make sure that this Dyneema does not chafe through where it's coming over your bulwark, over your tow rail. And for that, we think we would probably make a custom piece of HDPE or similar plastic as a rectangle here, screwed in because you can't really glue it, and nicely curved, and that would provide a very low friction surface that the Dyneema would lie against. So, an external chain plate that's very simple to build and should be massively strong and spread the loads far better down your hull than anything other than having a brand new custom yacht built with lovely carbon fibre built into the hull to spread the loads right from the design stage. This is a partially constructed soft shackle that we're using for our internal chain plates, where we would tie a figure of 8 knot that these 2 loops would then go through like that in order to lock it. So it ends up looking like that, where the 2 loops are here and are held inside the knot. They stop the knot slipping. If instead you take your length of Dyneema and do these as full locking ones, so they go through and through before the berry, then you have no issues with them potentially slipping. You see, if you just pull that tail, it could slip if it's not under load. So when you've got those locked at that length, the beauty of doing this style based on a soft shackle is that that loop to attach the rigging is only one berry above the mounting point. So that berry is 72 times the diameter of the Dyneema line, 72 times 9mm in this case. If you were going to make a loop and then carry on and have another loop that you would use to lash the rigging to, it would be twice as high and be ridiculously high. So by having two legs, each one has the berries are running in parallel, and your overall height is much reduced. Plus, of course, this is now, if it's the same thickness of line as your shroud, essentially your chain plate is approximately twice as strong as your shroud. If you're going to have two of these to double it up and spread the load further down the hull, you would use a lighter line so that you are still maybe double the strength of the shroud, but the load is spread over 4 points on the hull. We think these are such a fantastically simple way of doing it. You're going to be used to locking eye splices because you're going to need them on both ends of every shroud, so they're very much quick and easy to make compared to making your own dead eyes or similar to attach to traditional chain plates. The external chain plate option is a really good one if you're not wanting to demolish your cabin. So if we show you what our saloon has looked like in order to be able to fit the full backing plates for our internal chain plates, you could avoid all that work on the deck head by using external chain plates, and it has the additional advantage of moving the angle outboard, so you get a wider stance supporting your rig. So we know a lot of people have looked at that and come up with ways of changing their boat to use stainless steel external chain plates. We think this is a worthy alternative to that, and if you're looking at Dyneema rigging, it will be very easy to attach a lashing to it. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up.